The unthinkable had happened. America had offered its personnel the Reichskommissariat's cause. On Schenk's desk was an explosion of color, with files comprising of multiple colors. They held crucial information as to who would aid Schenk in reforming and training his army. Schenk felt happy, for the first time in a long while. He even hummed a little song or two while he wrote over the recommendations. These men would enter as mercenaries, foreign nationals that Schenk had hired to train his army. In reality, however, they were Americans. All the paperwork that was before him was an excuse to let them in. Mueller and Huttig would not suspect a thing. They would perhaps even welcome his overtures at making a more competent and elite land force. Schenk did not intend such a thing. The Americans and the Germans were the enemies of their secret project, and both think that Schenk was their useful puppet. Oh, how wrong were they. It was a momentous equation. For a time, the veil of darkness that had descended upon Schenk since his first days as the Reichskommissariat was lifted. A stroke of lightning and luck had banished the shadows. They would return, but for now, Schenk would rather enjoy the moment, for his project had gone according to plan. So we get the American advisors and a few cool bonuses. We're still continuing our little sort of fake war, and yeah, okay. Apparently we're supposed to have an event come up in a little bit, and there we go. Oh, friendly takeover. At 2 off-map civilian factory. Oh, okay, so they want a shitload. The Americans want a shitload of industrial control. Your demands is reaching about 25% of Angolan industry. That's not true, actually. You add 2 off-map civilian factories. We have 18 civilian factories, so we can give them that. And in fact, it hasn't even given them anything. It's amazing. We're actually having problems with manpower instead, huh? Really now? Since when have we had manpower issues? We took 22,000 casualties. We have a 2-year draft. I wonder how you actually get more. Oh, look at that! At a monthly rate of +2. What? That's so good. Project unveiled. I'm sorry, Herr Schenk. You want what? Exclaimed the voice, sounding ever more familiar to the Reichskommissariat, or to Reichskommissar, as he continued to nervously stamp his foot. He whispered into the telephone. Mr. Lansdale, you have heard my request, sir. The South African Gulf Oil and Aviation Company must provide certain guarantees for our constituents within the area. Schenk found it difficult, if what he was feeling was a modicum of satisfaction for himself, or just the heat of his anxiety pounding down upon him. Sudwestafrika has complied with our terms so far. However, guarantees for Sudwestafrika are not what I want. I must ask that the company can extend political and security guarantees to Angola. Schenk said. This secret project that you've been talking about, this is it, isn't it, Herr Schenk? After all this time, this is what the secretive buildup was all around, Lansdale said, his voice trailing off. The eerie silence beside a small buzzing plunged a dagger of doubt, worry, and anxiety deep into the Reichskommissar's mind. The company had not expected these drastic changes to certain parameters of our business agreements. Of course, these changes are not necessarily out of potential agency reach, nor presidential for that matter. But realize, Herr Schenk, that doing so would end up generating a political scandal unlike anything anyone's prepared to handle at the moment. We'll be in touch again soon, Herr Schenk, Lansdale said. I hope so, as Lansdale hung up, producing a buzzing which burst into his eardrums. Although the paperwork has slowly grown in the past few deals, Schenk couldn't help but step away from it all to peer through his office's windows. He knew that Hüttig and Müller may have been on the horizon, but he couldn't help but remember the Angolans' faces who were far closer in the distance as he looked into the savannah. So basically we have revealed our game to him. Is that JFK? Isn't he supposed to be dead? Oh, Joseph Kennedy Jr. died. Okay, so JFK is the president. Right. Okay. That caught me off guard. Wasn't RFK there? What the I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, we're still we're still doing these lovely focuses to slow down Hüttig and Müller, and only somewhat suspicious and not very suspicious. We are gonna reduce his suspiciousness. Very good. And right now we're having problems in this war. It didn't fly so good. This looks like a story event. Pause and read if you wish. The Union of Soviet Socialist Republics has declared war on the Trans-Baikal Principality. Okay, sure thing. Yeah, the Russian conflicts are still ongoing. A quiet defeat. Reichskommissar Wolfgang Schenk continued to pace across his room, going from being bathed by the warmth of the African sun through his windows to being embraced by the frigid shadows of the demons that lay inside his wounded soul. Edgy. His past came rushing in, thinking of all the men he had been responsible for shooting down, and for helping build up this handcuff of slavery and barbarism locked around the world. He rushed to his desk drawer to take a few pills and downed them with the hot water on his desk. However, as he consumed the pills, the words of the newest report that had arrived on his desk continued to scratch and slash his way through the man's mind. The manila folder containing documents with words highlighted in red such as United States' inability to afford such a crisis, other means of support in this program, and what was, for Schenk, the most harrowing of all, no. Desperate, he tried to find a way out of the disappointment and darkness that had consumed him, yet wherever he turned, he simply found greater points of sadness. Trying to find relief, Schenk opened the one drawer he hadn't opened in months. The one containing the beautiful jeweled necklace that the Angolan woman had worn. One whose body he found lying in the dirt of her village, torn to shreds, as the village had been by one of his air squadrons. Walking in his office, he looked at the necklace, studying it for all its beauty, representing Angola itself in Schenk's mind. Finally, Schenk began to assault the wall of his office, punching it over and over with the fist clutching the gemmed necklace. Once his knuckles were bruised and bloodied, his anger released, he opened his palm, looking at the blood dripping down the necklace. He would have to fight more for the Angolans, especially if the Americans would not help him. So we get the event at the beginning of the end. So the Americans are dicks, essentially. Unfortunate. This will not stop us, of course. Have you gotten the document, Reichskommissar? Has the American on the other end. I believe it has the terms we agreed upon for the deal. Yes, I have, Herr Lansdale. I'm happy that we closed this deal. In truth, he wasn't really happy. At least not as much as he should have been. It has been a pleasure doing business with you, he said again, lying. That's good to hear, said Lansdale, probably doubting the last part of Schenk's statement. However, we would like to move on to the particulars of this arrangement. We would like to know if the Southwest African Gulf Oil Company would be able to work with some more minor local groups that we could subcontract to help operate in the region. Do you have anyone in mind? Anyone who might be able to work with us? Schenk smiled. I know a group of individuals who might be able to work with you, Herr Lansdale. I will inform one, Jonas Savimbi, here he is, to expect a call from you shortly. I'm sure he will be pleased to discuss with you your plans for development. I'm sure he would, Reichskommissar. We can work with you two to develop a plan for future operation in Sudwestafrika. We can attend to this matter now that we have a deal in place. And now, wait, hold on. So the talks with the Americans actually have ended favorably, so why the fuck was he, like, I don't know. I really don't know what's going on. Anyway, this means that, This means that we can take the CIA focuses. Now, I am not sure if these are worth it, but I guess we'll see. Like, a few of these are just sabotaging the other Rice Commissars, which I don't think is really necessary. Gets the event a Ring of Fire. Interesting. No one in, no one out. There we are. So we finished this tree. Hüttig is only somewhat suspicious. So that's that. At this point, we can take a cleared conscience. But first, I suppose, we really should be going down the left-hand side of the focus tree. So I'll see you in a bit. Schenk sat at his desk trying to think up the way to draft one of his last orders as Rice Commissar. He needed to write out that he was going to order for the men down in the villages. It was for their sake, as much as it was for the natives. Allow the partisans to run unfettered, and let the troops escape with their lives. Of course, the men wouldn't know that, just following orders. He wondered at the absurdity of the situation. His treason relied on their loyalty so that they, both the colonizer and the colonized, may escape with their lives. It was such a dilemma that was supposed to make him feel better, but it didn't. One more thing from Mueller, who would no doubt begin asking questions if he wasn't distracted already. There wasn't much left to do now. Most of the preparations for the Angolan plan were laid, and he could just tell them to pull out of the villages fast and deliberately. Mueller and Hüttig could go to hell for all he cared. By the time they came a-knocking, he'd be in the air soaring towards a place where he could retire in peace. Then again, why risk it all before the end? If there was a screw-up, a leak, it would all be for nothing. He would probably be able to escape, but the plan would fail. Enough thinking. Enough dreaming. Time to decide. So essentially this is how the focuses on the left-hand side are structured. We've been doing, laying the groundwork, building up the nation, and withdrawing the guard. Essentially you get three options. One of them does things slowly, quote-unquote, which I suppose like when we declare independence or something as Angola. This is going to be reflected in, like, I don't know, our societal development, our national spirits, our troop counts, because here we have, like, the militia training. And the slower option raises suspicions a little. The middle option raises suspicions somewhat. And the you know, top generous option, I suppose, the accelerationist option, increases suspicion by a lot. Now, we will actually begin training village militias everywhere we can. Suspicion will increase heavily. I do like that. However, there's a problem. I am not gaining enough political power to stem these suspicions. Although, let's do this. Mueller is very suspicious. Oh, shit. So, what I'll do instead is just simply wait, instead of picking a focus, wait for a few days until I have enough political power to airlift Mueller's men, which is going to lower Mueller's suspicion. And then continue on with functioning utilities and giving them a fighting chance or whatever. Which hopefully should help out. Yeah, Mueller is very suspicious of us. Okay. We need to prevent them from doing too retarded things to us. Anyway, right now the war is still proceeding. Like, the South Africans were doing really, really well earlier. Now, however, of course, the Rice Commissariats are pushing back because the South Africans are really starting to run out of units. It seems like the Americans actually have not. Oh, by the way, yeah, he's here. George Wallace. Anyway, the Americans are not sending much help to South Africa anymore. And South Africa is really, really starting to be destroyed. So we need to speed up our plan as quickly as possible. Wait, Mueller is still very suspicious. Oh no, okay, it's still doing this. He's only somewhat suspicious now. Amazing. And now he's very suspicious again. That's kind of annoying. Let's hope that Hütig does not get too suspicious. But we need to accelerate this as quickly as possible because, you know, South Africa's starting to lose, and if South Africa loses, then Hütig wins. And Hütig, in fact, is also pretty close to finishing off his focus tree as well. Thankfully, his focus tree is 42 days, so our focus tree is faster. Much faster. And so, we have mostly completed the left-hand side of the focus tree. We only did not do the fake their papers because I only need one of these two to take Waiting in the Shadows, and now I can take History Will Count to Us once I have taken a Cleared Conscience. So that's all about Schenk. For the first time in years, we are feeling something we have never dared to hope we would ever feel again. We saw it in each other's faces. We saw it on poor Wolfgang, and we knew it. Peace. Sweet peace. The dark bags under his eyes are gone, and for the first time we could sleep in a bed without the thorny vines of our regrets strangling our heart and souls. We have done what we could. Our conscience is clear. As our plan enters the final stage, we've put our very souls on the line. We shall achieve freedom for the poor people of Angola, or we'll die trying. We are finally at peace, and this is all that matters. Now, Hütig is only somewhat suspicious, and Müller is very suspicious, but, you know, they are not suspicious enough. However, as you can see, the final stages of this war are entering, or we were entering the final stage of this war. The Union of South Africa cannot hold anymore. They are, some of their units are being scattered across Africa, trying to desperately sort of distract the Reichskommissariat's advance, but the Germans are being pretty relentlessly successful on the entire front. The Boers have been resuscitated, and they're soon going to add their own strength to this offensive, and the South Africans are very, very much going towards capitulation. And once capitulation happens, we know, of course, from hindsight being 2020, that fucking Hütig will be coming for us. So if this war continues, then not only Hütig will not try to murder us, but we will have at least a rump South Africa to distract Reichskommissariats while Angola tries to survive. So hopefully history will be kind to us, but it's time, and soon enough we were gonna take our bow.